So, good afternoon. First of all, thank you for inviting me to speak at this conference and allowing me to do my session in English. I do speak multiple languages, but I just don't speak Portuguese. Also, congratulations to InfraSpeak and Performetric. I need to take your cards because those were really interesting pictures. So I'm doing a talk typically around this topic, and it takes an hour. So I'm going to do a whistle-stop tour, and please connect with me if you're interested in any of the topics. But we have a research group as part of DXC Technology called the Leading Edge Forum. One of the researchers recently wrote a book called Seeing Digital, David Moschella. So some of the content here is actually in a book. So if you don't want to speak to me, we can always get you access to the book that describes some of the concepts here. So it's well known that you know, the famous quote by Mark Andreessen, which is software is eating the world, has been around for a while. You will be surprised, it was 7 years ago that was actually published in the Wall Street Journal. Since then, clearly it's almost a cliche now to tell any enterprise that they need to focus on software engineering or in software development. Most large enterprises are already shifting to be a software engineering company. Similarly, about 2 years ago, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA talked about Mark Andreessen's phrase and turned it on its head and said, software is eating the world, but AI is going to eat software. And so you won't be surprised that you know, 4 years ago, AI wasn't a big topic in the startups. So if you typically went to a startup pitch, it was about video streaming or photo sharing. These were big topics at the time, but not a lot on AI. Now AI seems to dominate a lot of the startup type of pitches that are going on. So in terms of enterprises, navigating this world of significant technology disruptors, the main thing that seems to be happening is that the consumers are adopting technology and digital lifestyles at a much faster pace than enterprises, traditional enterprises, are transforming to provide those kind of experiences. And I'll bring this to life with a real example shortly. But as a consequence of this consumer-driven demand for change, enterprises do need to transform, and the typical phrase that's used today is digital transformation. Honestly, it'll be called something else within about 3 years. It won't be digital transformation, it'll be something else, but at the heart of it, there will still be this need for business transformation enabled by technology. There is exponential change and opportunity that is going to be driven from this change, and it's going to be driven by consumers who are adopting these digital lifestyles, by digital native software companies, like a couple that we've heard today, providing the experiences for these digital natives, and they're those in turn driving the business change that's required. We find typically that the enterprises are now being more disrupted by the digital natives coming in. So I'm going to tell you a story that hopefully will resonate with most of you in the audience, story of Claire and Alex. These are future people, but it won't be a surprise to you that some of the things I'm going to say are actually available here and now. So this is Claire. Claire shops, but has actually never visited a shop. Sometime in the near future, maybe now. Always online, but never logs on. Optimizes her digital ratings real time. Never gets lost. Drives a car, but hasn't learned to drive. Has 3 jobs tailored to her family, never does housework, and has a robot called John. That should say John, not Jane, right? Now, this is no different to sort of close to people in my family. My son is 25 years old. He lives in London. He did a chemical engineering degree at Imperial College. Wasn't quite sure what he wanted to study, so he did chemical engineering. Decided he wanted to become an actuary in the city, and he's now a data scientist. He's not learned to drive. He's 25 years old. I keep saying to him, you should learn to drive. His view is in 2 years' time, there will be autonomous cars. I can't afford to park the car, so why should I learn to drive? This is how millennials think. They're already looking at the future and making decisions. It's not cheap to learn to drive in London and then park your car. So he's made an economic decision not to do so. Here's Alex. Alex is like my son. He just started college. He just started work after college. He absolutely loves his job. He's only been working there 2 weeks. He's a maintenance engineer for a large manufacturer. He's got a smartwatch. This watch navigates to different facilities. He's got a tablet that displays his work, orders, a schedule. It's possibly got, the traveling salesman algorithm built in to optimize his route to the right locations. He's got smart glasses. These are camera enabled as well as audio enabled. They're providing machine instructions. If he sees something he hasn't done before, he will get a video to explain what he needs to do. If he comes across something where there's no video, he can call back to the center where an expert, a human or a robot, can actually walk him through the commands. All generally available technology today. So he operates like a seasoned pro after 2 weeks. So recognize some of these scenarios? This is stuff that is available. The challenge exists that enterprises need to understand the many technologies that are available that are disrupting the market and be able to use these and experiment for those kind of scenarios. Now, this is work from the Leading Edge Forum. We've called this the third wave of innovation. You can see here web commerce, 93, 2005. We're all familiar with that era. The Expedia.com type scenarios of being able to start buying tickets online. But we moved to this social mobile cloud world. There's some negatives around that, clearly in terms of elections, Brexit, and so on. But in terms of the current wave, 2017 to 2030. This is called the post-cloud, or we've coined it as the post-cloud intelligence and automation phase. And this is different to the other waves. Why? Because it's actually made up of a lot more changes. Many more converging technologies are coming together at the same time. So you can see here 10 we've listed, but even in the 10, there are multiples. So you won't be surprised, AI, but AI in many forms, machine learning, deep learning, cognitive AI in terms of speech and image processing, algorithms enabled within bots, IoT sensors. And we've gone past, even in 2018, testing some of these. I know blockchain was on the agenda earlier today, but these now are real implementations that are starting to happen. So I've been personally involved in a project for Smart Factory, which is really an IoT project, but actually it's really a business problem we're solving. We're solving a business problem around operational equipment effectiveness, maintaining machinery in a plant to a higher level of availability to improve the products through. It happens to be enabled by IoT, by machine learning at the edge, by sensors, by algorithms that predict when the machines need maintaining. But it isn't a simple product you can buy a SKU off the web. It's actually been pulled together through various technologies, and the customer's been willing to experiment to see whether we can prove value in the experiment and then quickly move from proof of value to implementation and scale. So this is the new model of looking at these technologies. The problem is, even I, and I do this every day, I can't keep up to date on all of these technologies. So what you need is partners, an ecosystem, startups, etc., that can help you navigate some of this, and I'll come on to that. Now, interestingly, the disruption within some of the industries is still to happen. Now, on here, we think disruption as completely dislodging one of the existing providers. So while there's been disintermediation, we could claim the telcos have been disintermediated to pipes with over-the-top providers. Disruption really is completely eliminating somebody like we've seen in the industry for Blockbuster, as an example, right? Films via VD or streaming, and that was taken over. And part of this disruption typically is because the incumbents are unwilling to cannibalize existing revenue streams and look at how these new technologies would advance into new areas while cannibalizing existing revenues. In the top half of this diagram, you can see now beyond, oh, by the way, I witnessed firsthand the strike at Lisbon Airport by the taxi drivers two nights ago, and but it was so convenient. Everybody was there getting Uber taxis, and when I actually arrived at my hotel, the concierge told me I'd got a cheaper fare than if I'd taken a taxi. So if the taxi drivers, and I shouldn't say this too much because I'm not sure of what the legal challenges are, but that disruption is unstoppable, because it's a demand by the citizens and it's a demand by the drivers for work they're looking for. So it's going to be difficult to sort of stop these kind of initiatives. But you can see in my marketplace, IT services, who would have thought somebody like Amazon, who was a bookseller, then an everything store, would now be having $17 billion worth of Amazon Web Cloud services that completely disrupted any player we might have wanted to make in the public cloud. So we have to find sources of value higher up the stack in terms of how we build solutions. And these industries at the top here are classic customers of ours in DXC, defense, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and so on. They're still looking at how this set of technologies will disrupt the services they provide. And so our recommendation to them typically, and this is no different to our partners here like PwC and others, they talk to these customers in the context of focus as an enterprise on your customer, build simpler, more relevant customer experiences, be leaders in innovation. Don't follow the R&D type approach of just placing bets on a few things, bet on many things. Some will fail, you will learn, experiment a little bit more, and operate as digital-first organizations, so build ecosystems of partners that you work with. Beyond the sort of customer experience, working in an ecosystem, new business models are going to drive changes. So it's not surprising that by market cap, some of the biggest companies right now are platform companies. They don't really own assets in the traditional sense. They don't own airplanes, they don't own banks, buildings, and so on, but they are by market cap significant because of the potential of those platforms to drive into other market segments. You've seen things like Amazon, just even mentioning that they're going into healthcare, their market cap goes up by 10 billion, where the corresponding market cap in other healthcare providers goes down. So these business models on top of these platforms is where enterprises need to look. They need to look at exploiting platforms that already exist. If you try and Google for digital platform, there isn't a single SKU. You can't just go buy a digital platform. You have to take your current infrastructure, applications, business processes, and transform them to a modern platform. So this is that subtle change beyond, don't just say you're digital, start doing digital and looking at how you're going to build new business models on a platform that you own. Our experience, though, this is research from Leading Edge, is only 1 in 5 enterprises are actually successfully making this change. And that's because the cultural changes are significant. I cannot understate the changes required in terms of ways of working. I'll give you an example. This is in my organization. We have a procurement organization that was built very much for traditional IT outsourcing. So they try and minimize the number of suppliers to get leverage and scale. But if I want to work with a startup like InfraSpeak, I can't wait for 6 weeks to do a POC. I need to be able to give an NDA tomorrow and start on a project the day after. So you have to look at the whole organization, procurement, HR, many aspects. And this is where Gartner had come up with their bimodal piece. I'm not sure I fully agree. We have Gartner representatives here that you need a separate organization, but within procurement, within HR, within all of these organizations, you need somebody else owning this new way of working and leading the change. So it's a significant issue in moving forward. Having said that, those that are driving the change are focusing on these areas in the circle in the middle. They're looking at the business model innovation, they're looking at customer experience. Even if they're a business-to-business scenario, they walk to the actual customer in their value chain. So they go business to business to business to customer. They truly try and understand the end customer, and then they innovate in their part of the value chain. They're using platforms to do this, and the winners will exploit these platform effects. This continuous change life cycle is one where you need to now be planning a roadmap in quarters, not years. You need to think, what projects are we going to do over the next 12 weeks, 4 months, maybe maximum 6 months. Trying to lay out a multi-year plan is really the way of missing the target. It really is. So if you do have a multi-year plan, that's fine, but reassess your target more regularly as you move forward and place bets on projects that will drive economic value. So I'm a technologist in a technology company. My senior VP says no science projects. We do advanced development on customer problems. That's where we're going to focus our energies. So this is where we DXC are focusing, and this is the kind of conversation I'm having with multiple partners around where they should think of. So on the left-hand side, this diagram is all about capabilities. Digital is as much about working differently as it is about different technology or about different investments. So the different way of working uses terms like DevOps. This is operations working closely with development, using things like estimating the time it takes to get things released. So mean time to release is a good metric to look at in the DevOps space. And that's typically where the culture starts to change. Let's get things done faster. But you also need to be agile in the front end. You need a new way of doing portfolio management that looks at many more ideas and experiments on projects. So you have to have projects that are short and scoped. And some of our challenges as we engage with some of those large enterprises, the procurement teams don't want to experiment. They want a very well specified specification, and they want to tender that with multiple customers. So I've actually asked them to run competitions on the POCs. Before you even get to buying the service, why don't you run competitions on the POCs, 2-week fast sprints? So this engagement with traditional business will change over time, but even today, we're testing the boundaries of what people are comfortable with to do things much more quickly. And so when we look at this process, it looks traditional. You might think, okay, this takes weeks. We go from an idea to code in 2 weeks, and we release something to demonstrate to the customer. Now, this was really, so I'm an enterprise guy. I've worked for 30 years in government, in defense, in commercial sector. So I'm used to building a roadmap and building a software product that takes 12 months to develop, and then you finally release it. If you file tax returns in the UK, typically that's code my team wrote. I'm sorry to admit, right? But it took 18 months to develop that kind of project because we needed 80,000 people online running that system at peak. I did a startup in Silicon Valley in 2015-16, and we were building a competitor to Slack. I won't give you the name of what the product was, but imagine that if you are in a Slack session, you're having a chat session, and the algorithm and the robot could actually read what you guys are talking about, and it could summarize the actions at the end of the chat session. We were building that product. We were releasing it to prime customers, and it was still alpha code. It wasn't quite working. Why were customers willing to take it? They were willing to take it because a couple of the customers, a syndicate news group, a hotel group, felt there was value in using this to improve how they build hotels, to improve how they syndicate news. So they were willing to bet on experimental stuff. So that's what shook me a lot. It said, wow, there's a whole paradigm change in here. So for the last couple of years, I've been inside now, turning DXC now, was not DXC when I joined, but DXC into a very large startup. We have to have that mindset and where. We have to be masters of this technology. So we have DXC labs. We've invested in labs, Vietnam, India, Australia, UK, and the labs build reference architectures for every one of these. So for instance, if I just pick drones, we have an Alexa-driven drone with DJI. It's a partnership with DJI and Amazon, and we can say to this drone, please fly to this location and drop a parcel. Now, that is a generic thing. You've probably seen Amazon do it and so on. But as the reference architecture, I'm now looking at how could I do drops in theater for Ministry of Defense? How could I do something from oil rig to oil rig? Well, why would you want to fly a helicopter if you just need to pass a spanner from one oil rig to another? So this is where you take the reference architectures and then you apply it into the context of real customers. Worth noting, cloud, analytics, security, mobility, these are table stakes. They're not differentiators. You have to embrace the public cloud. I know there's some sensitivity still. Cybersecurity was a topic today. My feeling is you'll be more secure in the public cloud than you will be on-premise. You know, this is the amount of investment that's going into the mega scalers who are building these platforms will enable you to then innovate on top. If the security doesn't drive you, if the innovation doesn't drive you, the economics will drive you at some stage to adopt the public cloud and some of these capabilities that are going to be available first in public cloud. On top of that, then pick some topic areas, like these technologies I've shown, and become masters in them a little bit deep. You don't have to, though, have your own experts. You can have partners. So on the right-hand side, this is where traditional partners, some of them actually on the right side of this diagram, but channel partners and so on. But the most exciting thing is work with startups. Startups are trying to solve a problem, like InfraSpeak, like Performetric. That's a real problem. What they're also looking for is enterprises who are willing to test and validate that problem, and they pivot really fast. So if it doesn't quite solve your problem, guess what? 2 weeks later, they will show you something that is closer to the problem you're trying to solve. Bring those ecosystems together of partners and these technologies, start working in a different way, and you truly will be able to drive new business models, create better relevant customer experiences in any enterprise that you have today, improve process efficiency and effectiveness, not just business process modernization or automation, but true transformation of the processes to enable a wider value chain. And then finally, guess what? It might actually even reduce the cost of operations today, which will be something you will be thanked for. That cost should then be invested back in to drive further value. So from a technologist, more of a business pitch, I'm afraid to say, which is embrace this digital culture. It's one of the most challenging things to do, but the only way to do it is to learn by doing. With that, thank you very much.